Okay, week 8. Carolina Panthers lose to the Buffalo Bills 40-9. I got some thoughts. I haven't had any since after the Jets game. Didn't really I'm sorry, was it? No, after the Cowboys game. I didn't have anything to say after the Jets game because it wasn't there was really nothing to really talk about. It was kind of bland. There was really nothing surprising. No one stood out. No one really screwed up. It was just bland. But this Bills game, we got our asses kicked a little bit. Our defensive coordinator just couldn't adjust. I'm just gonna wing it. I do this for fun, get shit off my mind, maybe have someone listen. But let's start with the coaching. All right, here's what I think. I can only assume, could try and connect the dots, but I think what's happening here is the coaching staff, along with the front office, with maybe with Dan Morgan, um, all those other guys they have in there with prior coaching experience, and Dom Capers, and there's another gentleman I'm blanking on his name right now because we haven't really heard his name repeated. But um, I think that to help build a culture, they had to rely on locker room leaders, veterans, and that is what has led to a couple things. Well, and I'm not disagreeing with it yet up until now. People like Chuba Hubbard, pay what we were paying for was more of like, production, hard work ethic, locker room leader, someone to help build the culture, and and he wasn't doing too bad. Last year was a pretty good year. I think it was kind of obvious though he wasn't like a rock star. He wasn't a world beater. He wasn't. If he got if he was top five in the league in rushing, maybe it was more of a testament to the scheme and the blocking as opposed to his just natural ability. He does really well with angles and leverage, but doesn't have that burst, that second gear, that extra twitch. And I think he's also been struggling this year on kind of reading the play as it goes, um, which Rico Dowdle has all of and is doing well. So I think that they're and I'm hoping that they're going to transition away from this. When you think of people like Chuba and Austin Corbett, like why would you ever start Austin Corbett over Cade Mays is beyond me. Maybe there's stuff that I don't see as a a dumb fan, but it was always at least obvious to me. My opinion was Cade Mays should have been the starter from day one. Um, and now obvious that Rico Dowdle should be we should be leaning on him, and I think Chuba would play better because of it. If he were to come in, maybe get 25% of the snaps, whatever that is, Rico needs to be the guy. But let me get back to what I think's happening. I think they were relying a little bit on these locker room and leadership types to help build the culture. And right now they're maybe faced with a situation where you have someone clearly playing better, clearly has that a little bit more of an X factor, if you will, to help us win games. They got the hot hand. I think we need to ride with it. If I were Chuba, I would probably go to the coaches and tell them, look, this guy is playing better than me. He gives us a better chance. That's where that leadership needs to evolve to the next step, to when that like maybe you're not having the best year. There's obviously a spark when Rico's on the field and running the ball. Um, I don't know. Maybe Dave Canales is playing a little bit too much on the you know politically correct side in his interviews, because he did post game did say that he plans to keep doing what he's doing. It's clearly not working. If you keep doing it and it doesn't work, no one's going to be surprised. And that is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. You need to adjust, you need to go with it and let Rico run the fucking ball. Don't be scared to maybe I get it. Someone might be upset, but if they're true leaders, then they would understand. Um, anyhow, that's what I think may be happening or was happening, or in the process of happening. And I'm hoping that they kind of wake up a little bit and just say, look, we got a little diamond in the rough here. He's got a hot hand, and we're playing better. We're running better. The average yards per carry are better. We can't just continue to make excuses for on execution all the time when it just so happens that it only happens when Chuba's in there. Like maybe they could explain why that is, but it doesn't really matter. The results are there. You got the numbers. We have eyes. If not, we have ears. And shit, there might even be closed captioning to be able to tell you that our offense is better with Rico Dowdle carrying the ball right now. Period. All right. So I've been hearing a lot of chatter from Panthers podcast, Panthers fans, Twitter and whatnot, social media about stuff. And I said I would start with coaching, so I will. Rivero, it just seems like he has ups and downs, man. He has more downs than ups. Uh, Stopping the run game has been really good, and all of a sudden we just get dashed by a running back where it was obvious the cutback is what was killing us. And how you don't adjust your defense to help that somehow, I don't know. I'm not the one paid millions of dollars. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to do it. I just know that there wasn't an adjustment. And it's because of that lack of adjustment that even if should we get some kind of wild card playoff team, and I'm not saying it because I think we're going to get there. I'm saying there's a chance. If you think there's no chance, and you're just pessimistic, and that's fine. If you think we're going and you're optimistic, and that's a little loony too. I think there's definitely a chance. Let's be realistic. We can get there. But if we were to get there and lose 40 to 9 in the fucking wild card round, that's insane. So you need people, coaches that can adjust. And he's been here long enough. I get that maybe you don't have the star players that you want, but come on, man. Like I'm not saying that you need to go tomorrow. I'm just saying that this thing this just doesn't cut it. I'm sorry, but it does not cut it. Um, but it was a little nice to see three good games, even if they were against maybe bad teams. It was nice to see. I'm not gonna, dude. That is, let's say, three steps forward and one step back. I'll take that for now. We are a building team. On that note, um, damn it, I'm gonna get to the QBs. Okay, calm down. Calm myself down a little bit. Now, Dave Canales. All right. Let me preface this by saying I was telling people in Panthers Nation that the Dolphins were going to be on the decline because I could just see that Mike McDaniels was not someone that I think any fucking football player would want to play for. I saw it in the Hard Knocks. I just don't understand it. How I just could not see. It was like seeing a freaking company's financial statements and just say, dude, this is gonna short the stock. I don't see it improving. This is what has transpired. And I use that as an example because I can't tell you if this is what Dave Canales is. I would if I could. I can honestly I do not know. I know that for me it's kind of 50-50. I'll say what I don't like, which is he just seems like a Pop Warner coach a lot of times. It just seems like he's always there to speak positively, which is great. It's just a little. I want to see a bit more passion from him. Maybe what happens is he feels that before he can really start acting like the boss, he needs to have some time under his belt. I mean, he was a 1 year offensive coordinator calling plays, first year head coach last year. So maybe he'll get there. So, but what I'm saying is like, dude, if you cannot adjust your coaching habits, your play calling to a certain degree, I'm not that upset with the play calling. I just know that there's some kind of bonehead. You're thinking too much. Why are you going Wildcat, as an example? But I'd say it's better than years past. I can't really argue that. It is an improvement. Is it what we want to get? No, heck no. We don't have patience, and I get it. We want wins. We want to dominate. We want to keep running up the score. We want to stop them their offense. I get it, but it has improved. For the most part, there are some. He needs to make adjustments, man. And one of them is he needs to not be stubborn. You need to get out. You need to run the ball with Rico, as I talked about. Um, and you need to run the ball more. Uh, and then so that'll transition to my next topic, and I'll get to the quarterbacks now. Okay, I hear a lot of talk about Bryce lovers, Bryce haters, and those that wanted Andy to come back. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me because this is how saw it. One, the team to me was never going into his third year on his rookie contract after being a first overall pick. They were never going to draft a quarterback this last draft. Um, After how he finished last year, that was never going to happen. And if you're not, and if had they done it, even to be a backup, it would have been. If you look at hindsight 2020 in that scenario, you would have said, why would we do that when we could have used draft picks to help our defense, for example, or give them more weapon, whatever the case may be. And I think the decision was always going to be we're only taking two quarterbacks onto the 53-man roster. Period. End of discussion. That was what's going to happen. Now I can have a different debate on whether or not that's a smart move. I would like to see the NFL allow for the betterment of the league and quarterback development, allow kind of like a 53 plus one development, whatever you. I mean, they have kind of keep the players safe as opposed to being put on the practice squad and can be stolen from another team. Allow these teams and these front offices and organizations to develop a quarterback kind of safely from anyone being stolen. If you can fit them under the cap, do it. But that's a different discussion. I think that for this season, the plan was always two quarterbacks, unfortunately. With that said, the reason why they brought back Andy Dalton was not to be the backup to. He is who he is. He was going to be a backup that helped Bryce in his third year continue development and understanding the offense and NFL defenses to kind of keep that ball rolling that they had going, and not to challenge Bryce. Period. Um, what they probably did was overestimated a little bit his ability. Whether or not they knew he wouldn't be that great, that I don't know. But if they were probably wrong. If that's what they were thought, they were wrong. It's obvious. You can, he does. I'm not trying to down the guy, but um, we could find a better backup as far as on the field. So it just I wish I could say trust me, but I'm just a fan talking here. He was literally someone to come and be a backup and help develop Bryce. With that said, though, I think after his third year, I don't think he needs that development help partner in Dalton anymore after this year. I think it's time, and maybe that's what Hooker's brought on for. Um, we need to bring someone in this coming off season to help challenge Bryce and help us decide if he's ultimately going to be, the guy. Uh, that's what I would do. I would bring in another quarterback to challenge, maybe at the pretense of hey, you're coming in to be the backup to Bryce. But if it's obvious that if that player is playing better in practice in the preseason, then you make a move. And if you're going into Bryce's fourth year, and you as a coach and organization say this is the man we're going with, he gives us a better chance to win, then that's your call. I think you can let go of that need to keep playing Bryce if there's someone better. Now, when I said Hendon Hooker might be the guy, I'm not saying. What I'm saying is he can be in that conversation as well, not only. Meaning we need to bring in another guy, and those and all basically Hendon Hooker and the other guy could be. They could all just be challenged. They could just be have a competition, and whoever's 1 and 2 is 1 and 2. And if you end up having like three good, serviceable game management quarterbacks, like hey, maybe put Bryce on the trading block. Maybe that's too soon to think about or even say. I don't know. But we're talking about the future here, and I think it's obvious that we don't have a viable backup, which was fine. I wasn't really expecting it. If he wowed us all like he did against the Raiders last year, then great. He just doesn't have it anymore, man. That's fine. But what I mean, in hindsight, you could have had him as the third string, and if he would have agreed to be on the practice squad, and assuming that no other player, another team would have wanted to pick him up. I don't know how that really goes. Like, do practice squad players, maybe the veterans, do they have a choice of whether or not a team calls and he tells their agent, "Nah, man, I don't want to sign with him. I'd rather stay on this team as a practice squad." I don't know. Anywho, I think it's pretty obvious. So I think what I'm gonna do with my stupid little spreadsheet here is I need to put quarterback somewhere. Right now, is that a free agent or is that a draft pick? For funsies, I'm going to say it's a draft pick, but I wouldn't want, let's just assume this is first, second, third round pick, fourth, fifth, sixth, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say third earliest. Now, there's a caveat to that. Again, I'm just winging it. Drew Allard getting injured could be a blessing in disguise for this Panthers team. If he were to fall to the second round and he's there on the board, I would fucking take him in a heartbeat. A freaking heartbeat. Let him sit for a year. Let him let what if he's dealing with an injury still. I don't know. I've heard that he will not. That he'll be ready. I guess I just heard one report on this. I haven't really kept up with it, but I heard probably within a week of his injury that, or 2 weeks, that he should be ready to go. For off-season drills. So I've also heard that he probably has to declare for the draft, but I've also heard that the NCAA makes a lot of exceptions, so he may go back. So okay, that's an option. But here's what I'm also saying is that I would probably say that you let a quarterback fall to you, someone you like. Get a couple guys. Think of a couple guys you would like in each round, from anywhere from the second to seventh round, and just see if one falls to you, and then bring him in to compete with Hendon Hooker as the backup and or Bryce as the starter. I'm not going to speak to the fifth-year option on Bryce. I don't know. I mean, I'm just my gut feeling would be maybe that's more of a financial decision, to where maybe, let's say the argument is, again, winging it here. What if the discussion is more about, okay, is he going to cost? Would he be? Would a fifth-year option cost the same as a let's say a viable backup? And if the answer is yes, then okay, pay him the fifth-year option, and if he's backing up on his fifth year, so be it. It's pretty much about, that's the kind of, you have, that's more of a financial decision as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't have a problem if they paid it and he's a backup. I really wouldn't. Or a backup and potential to keep fighting for the starting role. Uh, we don't need to be thinking of any player as like we have loyalty to them. Um, just because we picked them number one overall, it doesn't matter what we signed for someone. Like, we need to put the best players on the field. We need to start the. We are a growing team, but in his fourth and fifth year, coaches are going to be, if they're still around. We expect the expectation is going to be fighting to get into playoffs at the very least. We need to see improvement, um, and or be a contender. Whatever it is, we always need to keep improving there. We could also have a debate on, like, well, who else is going to be better? Okay, well, that's the whole. That's why you bring in competition. There's some people talking about, well, trade him, cut him. Oh, okay, well, who are you going to bring in, man? Like, he's going to be on this team next year, unless he were just to just crap it up the rest of this season. Like, take his worst games, and if that's what we saw most of the rest of the year, then that's a different discussion, and I'm not speaking to that right now. But if we're if and that's a different scenario. So yeah, I'll touch on it a little bit. If we're sitting with a top five pick, maybe a decently pardoned because of the quarterback's poor play, and you're looking at a top five quarterback pick that you like, then okay, cut him, or put him on the trade block, see what you get for it. But again, I'm just talking about how do we improve this team going forward. Who to look out for, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so we touched on the quarterbacks. I don't think there was anything that I'm going to regret not mentioning because I said my piece on Dalton Young. I actually do think Hooker has a chance. Well, just based on his college film, his arm, his accuracy. What I can't speak to is how is he doing with reading NFL defenses and running the playbook. But if your coaching is helping with that, then he should be viable at the least. If he's not, then why'd you sign him if he can't do it, or why aren't you better coaching him? I spoke on the running backs. Rico needs to be number one. It just again, this isn't about loyal. This is about who gives us a better chance right now. If I were Chuba, I would be telling the coaches, dude, I'm not playing as I was. Whatever the reasons are, I don't know what it is. I'm not in the locker room, but you can't keep doing this, man. You can't be doing this one quarter one guy, another quarter the other guy. Uh, it's not helping. We didn't have the best game running the ball against the Jets or against the Bills. So I think it's time to you wake up and you make that call and just say, hey man, this is the decision. And if he throws a fit for it, let him throw a fucking fit. We are paid. He's being paid not to start to be on this roster. So all right. Let me just go up the list here on offense. Anything standing out? This is the downside of kind of winging it, is I don't really give myself a script or anything. I didn't even really take notes. It's all off of my memory. I still think that well, let's look at tight ends. Okay, nothing's really changed there in my opinion. I think Tremble could still be a cap cut. As you can see, my legend over here, orange is a potential cap cut. Sanders and Mitchell Evans. Like, hey, there's been talk of Mitchell Evans, and he's looking good. Maybe he's tight end one next year. Okay, let's look at offensive line. Um, Brady Christensen's out. I would have re-signed him. I don't know if I will. This might just be based on his injury. Is he going to be someone that is, a good decision to re-sign on his injury alone? If not, then don't re-sign him. But I don't think anything's really changed of my opinion because I already was of the opinion that we need to bring in some depth to some young draft picks or some players to at least be depth if not challenge, because even when Taylor Moton has been injured, I've seen him get embarrassed, as I've mentioned in I think my past video. Um, Robert Hunt still under contract, but he could be a June 1st cut, save some money on the cap. I mean, I think that might depend on who we end up getting in the offseason. Cade Mays to me, I haven't really seen. I haven't noticed any downside to him. But Austin Corbett to me would be the cap cut. Damian Lewis, I'd keep him, but he if we cut him, he could save some money. I would keep all these guys, as I mentioned in the past video, all our starters. Zavala's still on a rookie contract. Keep him. If Christian's ready to come back to camp next year, I would re-sign him and then draft a couple guys, sign a couple guys, something. Maybe Taylor Moton needs to have that challenge at right tackle too. I wouldn't touch receivers right now. I mean, I still kind of think the same thing. I don't know why Hunter Renfro isn't in there. I think maybe they're trying to, give Horn Jr. more reps, which is fine. I'm a little disappointed. I mean, maybe Bryson Tremaine is giving them more in special teams than Hunter can. That's probably the answer, which is why I really do think that the NFL would allow more active players on Sundays. Um, because Hunter he just has that ability to make shit happen. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. I just think he's the odd man out right now on the active roster, which is okay. Personally, I would keep him. Um, at least bring him into camp. And if you end up getting someone else and you can't fit him on the 53, then so be it. Who knows? Maybe that's up to him, though. Maybe if he's not promised a roster spot, then maybe he won't resign. But I'm thinking that he would. All right, I think that kind of covers offense. Um, yeah, yeah. Again, dude, we're building, we're growing. We just need to keep improving. So let's talk defense here. We obviously struggled against the Bills running game. I can't. I just. It's even all the years I've been watching. It's kind of. It was almost hard for me to like really put like what's the problem? What is the problem? Like how do we improve our uh, run stop rankings in the league to what it was? I think it was top 10. To all of a sudden just giving up 216 yards. The only thing I saw different was that Cook. Is that his name? Cook? Yeah, Cook was just he just cut back more than the players we're used to seeing. We've been seeing. I think he kind of he read where each play was going a lot better, and we did not have a response. Um, Again, I'm not the X and O's guys. I'm not getting paid millions to make to give the advice on how to change that. All I know is that the guys who are, in my opinion, should have. Which is why you can't have that much lack of whatever you want to call it, Dave. Execution. I don't care. Figure it the fuck out and do it quick, man. We need to at least be competitive, you know. And if you and again, I'm not down. Like, dude, this was an L. I think on everyone's prediction. Sure, we had a little. Or some fans had their hopes up. Some fans were looking at how we just won three in a row, and the Bills had one of the worst run defense, if not the worst run defense. So there was a chance. But you know, if you put it into perspective, I'm more upset we lost to the freaking Jaguars, um, and then to the Cardinals, and then to the Patriots than I am about the Bills game. Oh, mainly because hey, I mean, I'm upset. The thing I'm upset most about the Bills game is just like that lack of adjustment and change, and not running the ball with Rico as much. But I think all those are coaching decisions, and you know, even if you were to squeak into the playoffs, you can't. You need to be a competitive team. Period. So those are the so far the things I can discuss that can help. Better coaching decisions, better backup quarterback if you should you need it, better some better play calling. Again, yeah, I'm repeating myself. All right. I guess before I continue, you know, I've heard some podcasters talk about I don't like the injuries don't matter to me, man. They should. I don't know why. Like the only way they matter is if you're putting money and betting for the team. Like I don't see like how is that those are there's nothing the coaching can do to fix that. There's nothing the players can do to fix that. If Brady Christensen's down, he's down. If Cade Mays goes down, he goes down. Trevin Wallace gets injured. Dude, they're injured, man. You guys need to understand next man up mentality. And yeah, it's gonna be hard, but sometimes with good development, good coaching, on not necessarily play calling, but good development, good coaching, this is an opportunity to find your next guy, find your next Cade Mays. Um, who else? Who else could I find your next Rico? And I'm not going to say that we're going to find a Rico offensive lineman or inside linebacker, but you know these are opportunities to keep progressing down the line. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty, but again, that only matters if you're putting money on bets, man. You know, as fans, if we want to see a win, we can't. Why are we complaining about injuries? There's nothing we can do to complain. Like, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't fix it. We can complain about the coach not running Rico. We can complain about the defensive coordinator not adjusting. We can complain about stupid play calls sometimes when they're getting too fancy and they call wildcat. Like, we could complain about the coaching telling the quarterbacks like to wake the f up and pay attention and hold on to the ball when you're slow as molasses. And same goes for Bryce. Hold on to the freaking ball, man. We could complain about it because those are fixable. Injuries are not, man. Like, we just next man up. Um, okay, so let's see if anything really changed for me, at least my personal opinions, um, for defense. I mean, as far as my, and this is just my makeshift spreadsheet. Sorry, I'm not going to spend too much more time on it unless I feel like it. I already had inside linebacker a big need for us, an edge rusher. I moved cornerback up, and why did I and nose tackle, defensive and nose tackle. I think, yeah. Damn it, I forgot to mention something about the offense. Okay, I'll say this: I think XL is improving. He's not blowing it up, but over the past couple weeks, I've seen, he's been there. And when thrown to him, I've seen him make some what I would expect. He's done what I would expect him to do. So I think one of these days, you could bookmark this. One of these days, one of these games, and I'm kind of hoping. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not saying definitely it's gonna happen, but I just know that like one of these days, if he gets a chance, he's gonna have a very explosive play, and the fans are gonna all of a sudden just kind of turn for the better. And I'm hoping that happens because I also think it's gonna give him some needed confidence. I'm not saying he plays without it. I'm just saying I think he's one of those guys that like he needs some good things to kind of go his way to help his confidence and performance going forward. And I'm hoping to have it because I know he can has it in him. I think the stars need to align a little bit, on a short slant, on a some kind of wide receiver screen to where maybe the defense makes a mistake and he could show his explosive abilities and really kind of give him that give everyone that boost for him, including himself. All right, sorry, that was the one thing I forgot to mention about the offense, but defense. As of as I was saying, I'm already saying inside backer is important. Another edge rusher because I had on here that like between Patrick Jones, DJ Wanham, you know, maybe have one of them be a cap cut. Unless you were to be able to have someone else, come in as a veteran free agent, you can cut them both. Um, but I my opinion is a little different than most fans. I don't think it's necessarily a lack of skill and ability for our players. I think it's part of our scheme to where they are taught and expected to just collapse the pocket, keep the quarterback in the pocket, and collapse it. And I don't necessarily disagree. And I can get into it a little bit. I think people are just going to think I'm crazy, though. I'm of the belief that because there's been such a huge transition on the NFL, well, it starts in college, to where the media and scouts and everyone just hypes these players, these athletic quarterbacks who are quote unquote, what's the phrase? Good off script. I've bitched about it in a past video where I just don't. You can't manufacture off script for quarterbacks, but they over embellish these quarterback abilities and expect it to transition to the NFL. But because there's so many teams out there with these types of quarterbacks, it's actually not a bad scheme on paper to make the quarterbacks out there that are probably better off script to just force them to manage the game from the pocket. So, to me on paper, that's good, but it's obvious that if you get a guy in there who has just enough time to complete passes, that's an issue. That's why we need improvement there at rushing the passer, and it's usually the edge guy. We can't expect, as good as Derek Brown is, we can't expect him to always just create pressure and blow up every pass play from the inside. It's just not realistic. If it is, then holy crap, we have ourselves a future Hall of Famer. Not that we may not. I'm just saying, um, we need a guy to come off the edge, and however that happens, whether it's rotating players, but and maybe Princely and Nick are getting there. They're going to get there. They're not there yet. I'm not saying they're playing bad. I'm just saying we do not have a guy who we can. We're all watching the TV screen and can almost feel it that like our guy is about to just blow it up. So I think we need to keep looking for that guy. I'm not even saying if a draft pick would do it. I'm just saying like we need to keep looking for that guy. Um, someone who can fit in the scheme by keeping the quarterback in the pocket, collapse the pocket, and get to him. They just need to do it quicker. And when we get there, we need to wrap him up completely and get and finish the sack. I think it's improving. If I had to bet on it, I wouldn't be too surprised if we start to see a little bit better improvement throughout this year on that front. But um, I'm looking at this defensive line, assuming we're still going to be in a 3-4. If Cam Jackson can be that guy at nose, great. But I do not. I mean, I trust them more than me. I thought Bobby Brown was brought in to play the nose. They have Ashawn Robinson playing there right now, and if that's the best thing, that's the best thing. I can't. I'm not going to argue against it. It was working well up until this last game against the Bills. So I just feel like you probably just have to tinker there a little bit, just a little bit more. And whatever that is, like if I had to say it, I still want that true no. If you don't have a true nose tackle in Ashawn Robinson and Cam Jackson ain't there yet, then do it. Get your true nose tackle. Maybe have him split with Cam Jackson. Two mid to late round guys just splitting it and just fortify it. Have your nose, and then have your Derek Brown, Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown the third if he's not a cap cut. Jaden, have your defensive ends do their thing while your nose tackles are doing their thing. Whoever that is, maybe Ashawn Robinson comes back. I don't know, but I think we do need improvement there. I just don't, I don't think we need a first round guy for it. Personally, I'd rather spend that first round guy on an outstanding inside linebacker or offensive tackle to be there to replace. I just to me there's bigger priorities um, than edge rusher. All right, we're gonna feel the pain right now with inside backer if Trevor Wallace can't go. I haven't seen the latest reports. I haven't really heard anything since or heard much, but I did actually know I did hear. I just heard from another podcaster that he's probably out. Trevor Wallace is, so I think we're gonna feel the pain of not having good depth there. Um, Maybe this is another one of those dumb coaching decisions where they go with Claude and Sherrillis as opposed to let's say a Bam Martin Scott, who to me just gut feeling would tell me that Bam Martin Scott would be more of that. Let's see what we have, and who knows? What if we have a diamond in the rough? I'm sure they see more in practice, but sometimes they need to see the field. Sometimes we need to see them on the field, live action. So maybe we will, even if Clown Sherrillis is starting in place of Trevin Wallace. But I think that Wallace and Rosen had horrible first few 2-3 games, but have played really well during our win streak. And then last week, again, I can't. I don't know. I just think maybe it was just the one guy who was supposed to be there was just not there on each play that he broke. Um, Damn it, I forget his name. Cook. I don't know why. I'm getting old. But yeah, that I think we're gonna feel it. So I would make that a priority. And if you have Trevin Wallace and Christian Roseman again, who I have, he's going to be a free agent. I would re-sign him. and have them kind of like battle it out for who's starting. And if even if we ended up with a first round inside linebacker sitting on the bench the first couple weeks, like who cares? Because that's what this team's doing anyways. Every draft pick has sat, with the exception of T-Mac since Dan Morgan took over. Every draft pick has sat for at least a few games. So, but we definitely, I definitely would like to see. I'd love to see just a world beater inside linebacker. Um, a future Pro Bowler type to play with Wallace, for example. All right, corner. Mike Jackson, I think, had a good game. I'm actually there are usually I always expect our corners to play worse than they actually do for the most part, with the exception of the Cowboys game where Jackson got cooked against what is his name, Pickens. So I don't know. I don't think anything's really changed there. Jackson could be a cap cut. Um, I yeah, I don't know. I definitely, just on paper, I think we need to get somebody in there to come in, and you can never, to me, you can never have like, the only thing preventing you from having too much potential at corner is the fact that you need starters too. So uh, yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing in a corner um, to help improve and or potentially challenge Mike Jackson for the starting spot. I would not rely on just who we have. I would want to bring in someone else. Safety, to me, I think it's just a matter of time before you know you have you, Nick Scott's not playing, not starting, and if for whatever reason, based on the scheme, if they aren't comfortable with like a Trayvon Merrick and Lathan Ransom starting, or Merrick and Damani Richardson starting, then okay, then yeah, maybe we need to bring some guy in to fit whatever they're looking for that apparently they feel Nick Scott is better at. So let's see. Do I want to pull up PFF? I'll say this. How about this? Let me see if I can pull up PFF here. Who do they have? Sorry, I'll adjust the screen here in a second. I'm not that familiar. So let's go mock draft simulator. See if anything, this kind of just proves how much I wing it, because a smart guy would have had everything ready to go. All right. So it looks here that as of right now, they don't have a date on this, but I'm guessing as of right now, we're picking 16 with our record. All right. So I just want to look at inside linebackers again. All right. So you got Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles are still the top two. I can, I you know I need to keep, I need to try and watch some more Ohio State, more college football in general. So this will serve as a tool and a reminder that I need to pay more attention to teams like Ohio State, maybe Alabama. Keep an eye on Deontay Lawson, who is, let's see here, 6'2", 228. You got Anthony Hill at Texas, 6'3", 238. I mean, these are, size isn't the tell all. These are kind of things I guess I look at. C.J. Allen, who's he? 6'1", 235. I mean, again, this is probably annoying to some, but like, I don't know. I think I judge the cover first before reading a book, and I just, based on the cover alone, you know, this 6'4", 243, that cover looks awfully good before I start reading that book. What weeks? He's been, I guess, a no name for a little while now. A little on a smaller side. But, this might depend on who our defensive coordinator is, too, of what kind of scheme they're going to want to run. But again, you ask me, I ain't going to say no to a 6'4", 6'5", 240 plus pound inside linebacker. So if someone like Sonny Styles could be that inside backer, great. Now, just my very premature thought process would be Arvell Reese is probably going to be more of that guy that I think the team would be looking for than a Sonny Styles. But I don't know. I mean, they're the X's and O's guys, not me. Dan Morgan's going to know more about this. He might like someone in the third or fourth round that he might find to be um, maybe not as flashy, but comparable to the first round guys. All right, let me look at edge here. There was a guy by the name of, where is he? I haven't seen him on here. I don't know where he's at, but he plays for heck, who the freak does he play for? Darn it. Oklahoma. There we are. Mason Thomas. R. Mason Thomas. This guy, I want to keep an eye on a little bit more as like maybe potential edge rusher. I've heard some great things about him. He is again 6'2", 249. Right now he's ranked 32 in the league. I mean that could be. See, that's more. He's an edge rusher though. He might be a good fit for an outside linebacker in a 3-4. Cassius Howell, I've heard some good things about. Very similar body type. Ruben Bain, the first. No, apparently that weight is unknown. Was it like that Mike Tyson video game where everything was unknown? Or no, was that someone? I don't know. All right. Let's see. I've heard Keldrick Falk. Yeah, he's more of a 4-3 edge rusher. Of course, that's the dream. You get a guy who's 6'6", 285 who could play outside edge in a 3-4. That's just, that's freak of nature. David Bailey, I spoke about him. He's someone I'd like to see more of. So right now, to me, again, just very early in the season. If I'm looking at edge rushers, unfortunately, these are the kind of guys that are probably going to go first, second round. But you never know, man. You could get a guy in the third. You know, so far, just kind of cool names is edge rusher out of Oklahoma, R. Mason Thomas, Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M, David Bailey out of Texas Tech. Oops. Uh, Kendrick Falk, what was he again? Yeah, oh yeah, he's big guy. Those are kind of like the top three. That would just me. I haven't really given too much thought into the rest. Oh, because I have inside backers here too. That's why. Let me get rid of yeah. Let's go back to inside backer. Arvell Reese, the kids out of Ohio State, Anthony Hill, Deontay Lawson, C.J. Allen. I don't know. Wasn't he on the smaller side? Yeah, a little bit 6'1", 235. But hey, again, these are the kind of guys I think that we need to are going to be guys that become that teams are going to be looking at for inside backer. Let's look at quarterbacks for fun. All right. So right now, according to PFF, and this will change. You got Mendoza, Moore, Ty Simpson. Then you got Lenore Sellers. So heck, you know what? Let me talk about him for. Why not? If he were to fall this second round, I would take him, and I'm gonna tell you why. A lot of some people are saying, even the PFF guys, what's their like NFL Stock Exchange podcast? They don't really like him that much. I'm surprised that PFF has him ranked 49th overall because they're talking more like third, fourth round type. I think Lenora Sellers has a shit ton of potential. I can see it. I ain't a Gamecock. I can see it in him, and most people will say he should stay in college and transfer. And that could work if he transfers to a school with an offensive scheme that helps him transition better to the NFL. Now, if you want to go to a school where you're putting up gaudy numbers, great. But what is if to me the goal should be to be a future Pro Bowl playoff winning, NFL contending team and be a part of that and leading that team. That should be the goal. So here's why I would say, again, if I'm him and that was my goal, I come out this year. And I hope that I get picked by a team that wants me sit me for a year. Because to me it's obvious. Going back and playing at South a game, and this goes for all quarterbacks that can relate to this. Going back to college to play in the same team where you are not able to either showcase your abilities and your skills, um, further develop them, then then what's the freaking goal? Because all Sellers is going to do go back to South Carolina. Maybe he gets promised a better offensive line, but you're still going to have the same offensive scheme. And I have full confidence. I can't say yet I know he can do it, but I feel pretty damn confident that if he gets the right development, he could sit for a while in an NFL offense and watch it. Basically, watch someone else do it and learn. The problem is that players like this end up getting drafted high, and then the fan base and the front office and the team, like, they end up expecting to play the team to play them. And if they're drafting a guy in the first round, it's because they have a need for it. So it's very hard for them to not pull that trigger and start the guy who should not be starting. They probably would need to, you know, take their freaking hits. This is why teams like like mostly the Packers, end up kind of getting flack after they take a guy when they didn't quote unquote need him. But I think if the goal again, if the goal is a better NFL career, the best possible move is to come out and get drafted by a team that's willing to sit you while you learn an NFL offense and aren't getting beat up week after week. You don't risk the chance of getting injured, and you are getting developed in an NFL offense. So I'm not of the mindset that you need that NFL scheme in college to be successful in the NFL. So that's just me though. So that's what. So if he were to fall again, NFL teams just don't think like this though. That's kind of the problem. That's the issue that I have is that I would. It's very easy for me to sit here and say, dude, if he fell in the second, I would take him. I would take Drew Aller as well, and I would have him sit for a year. I don't think Drew Aller needs to sit compared to Lenora Sellers, but if I'm the Panthers, I would make him sit, and I would make Bryce, play. And then if Bryce ends up playing extremely well, but we also have this backup rookie quarterback, then that creates trade value to another team. Um, and at least during the first 2 years of the rookie contract, you have a viable backup at the same time. I don't really see as big of a problem with other players. If that hurts someone's feelings because they're the starter, then I'm sorry. If that hurts the fan bases because we could have used that pick elsewhere, then I don't care. Like it's we see now we need a viable backup. There's only what 17 games in the NFL season. You need to win. You need a backup quarterback. So plus we don't know who's going to be out there in free agency to pick up. Anywho, who else they got? I think Sam Levitt is overhyped right now. I haven't studied enough of him to be able to say that he can't be that guy, but I definitely like him more than I liked Will Levis. But I don't. But I thought, well, I wouldn't have drafted Will Levis personally. I thought I would have given him max a third round grade. I predicted he was going to get drafted in the second round because the team was going to basically overpay for him, overdraft him, and that's exactly what happened. But a lot of people like Sam Levitt. I guess maybe I need to see more. But I live in Arizona. I went to Arizona State. I watched a lot of last season. I've watched some of this season. I I just don't. I don't see it yet. I definitely don't see it with Nussmeyer. Um, I don't see it with Mateer. I know he's gotten a lot of hype. Jaden Mayava, he's got potential. I need to see more of him, but so far, it's intriguing. Need to see more. He could skyrocket up the draft board if he were to come out. I think he's like a sophomore, redshirt junior. Okay, so he may be someone that comes out. I don't know. I think he's more likely to stay unless for something. What's USC's record right now? Is this shit even coming up on the? Yeah. All right, it's right here. All right, where's their record? 5-2. Okay, so they're not having a. It could be worse. So I don't know. I mean, I just it's hard to predict if players will come out or not. So, but he's actually right now he's looking like someone who might take advantage of what I would think is a questionable draft class at quarterback. Um, so what's going to happen with someone like Mayava, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly, Mayava, Maavi, I don't know. Um, he could be someone that's like, hey man, I need to take advantage of this and go. You know, I don't know, man. This Drew Aller injury, is gonna help a fucking team. I'm just gonna say it. He may still go first round if he's able to kind of showcase his abilities in the off-season process and does not fight for going back to college to school, which he may not want to do if he's going to have a new head coach, new who knows, maybe new scheme, which he would do well for. The knocks on Drew Aller are this. I think I said in one of my other videos is look, yeah, he has fumbled the ball or threw interceptions at key moments. To me, it's all about transition. Those don't scare me because let me think about if I need to rephrase that. I'll just say to me he is potentially a prototypical transitional player to the NFL. So if for some reason he just has that choke aspect to him, that could be a red flag. I don't think that's a trait. I think that that's a confidence and ability and repetition and as Canales would say, time on task. That you can get over that. It's not a trait of a quarterback to just always just throw an interception when they need you to not do it. So um, it's definitely unfortunate, but to me, it's about the transition. He's going to be so much better than Carson Beck, Clay Klubnik. I'm not going to speak on the guys that I haven't really watched. Uh, yeah, I like him better than anybody here. The only one who I would say personally, talking to a guy, and you don't have to trust me. I ain't getting paid for my quarterback scouting, but maybe Fernando Mendoza. If I need to study him, then there could be guys that I'd be like, oh man, that guy. Yeah, I would take him over Drew Aller. But right now, Drew Aller to me and has been, not because I'm a Nittany Lion. It's just he's got that transition ability. I think he's an NFL quarterback, and I think he doesn't need a year to sit. I don't mind if he does though. I never do. Who else stands out here? You could have players like late round picks, mid round picks, Diego Pavia. Like these guys are going to be backups, but with the chance, you never know. What if? What if? How big is this guy? 6 foot 207. So he's like Bryce, or sorry, Drew Brees. Um, but like to me, I've heard people talk about like, hey, they'd love to see him come in. They even the people who think very highly of him. To me, it's just a stretch to think that right, like you think this guy is going to be a future NFL star quarterback. You may be right, but I liken that more to you're not betting on red and black and roulette. Is that right? Yeah. You're putting all your money on numbers 25 through 30. It's just less likelihood. It could happen, but to me, I would look at someone like Diego Pavia or the likes would be a mid to late round pick who has the potential to be a backup and maybe that spark plug should he ever get into the game. Great. And if he can transition that to being a starter, even better. Hmm. Where is my man Miller Moss, man? Why do they hate Miller Moss? I said in the last video, he's a guy. If we were to take him in the, would I go third round? I wouldn't get mad at it. That would be up to them, the team, the front office, the scouts, of where they value him. Where did the teams in the NFL value someone like Miller Miles? Okay, me personally, if I was making a decision, like I'd go fourth round highest, but also that's without the rest of this season, the off season, comparing the comparables, the interviews, everything. All I know is that I think he can transition well. I would take him over Diego Pavia based off what I've seen. I think he's got more ability. And I'll just keep fucking saying it, man. It's about that transition, reading a defense, going through your progressions, managing the game from the fucking pocket. It's all about that to me. And if you could add on to that athletic ability to escape the pocket, make something happen on your feet, even better. Roll out of the pocket and go off script and make something happen, even better. But to me, from who I've seen, the two that stand out are Drew Aller and Miller Moss. And no, I don't do this for a living. I don't get paid for it, so I don't really haven't seen much of the others. But what I have seen, I've watched some Ty Simpson. Um, I've seen more of him than Fernando Mendoza right now. I've watched some Dante Moore. Dante Moore is exciting. He's might be someone I need to keep looking out more for. Is he like a Jalen Daniels? I know that what I saw of Jalen Daniels before he came out, I told everyone he was QB1. I told everyone Derek May was QB2. I know Jalen Daniels is out, injured right now. Is Dante Moore like a Jalen Daniels type? Could he wow me? I mean, he looked pretty damn good when I've of what I've watched. I just he hasn't wowed me yet. I see good. I think he's a player that could probably look again. Redshirt, yeah. I think he's just a little too. Maybe that's probably why, because he's just a little too green for me. Not because he's just a redshirt sophomore, but he looked a little green, but looked high potential. That's a player that if he could, I say he stay in school. But it's really hard when you have agents and NFL teams saying that you could be a top 10 pick, and maybe he can transition. So anyway, I don't know. I like talking quarterbacks. I like looking at the quarterbacks. I wish I liked watching all their film just as much, but it's a lot of work. Oh, here's Jalen Daniels. Who else we got? No one else really stands out right now, and that's probably just because I don't know. I'm just a Panthers fan talking stuff. I probably should before the draft. I definitely should kind of get into the weeds so that maybe I can ring the bell, pound the table for a couple guys. Not that anyone's gonna, especially not the team. They're not gonna listen. But I don't know. These are just guys that I find exciting. Fernando Mendoza. That's the thing. I don't, short of our quarterbacks shitting the bed and giving us a top 5 or 10 pick. I think for some of if Mendoza is what everyone else is saying right now, and let's just assume that like I would agree, like holy crap, he's a good. I would say he's a top 5 pick. I, Panthers aren't going to take him, bro. I just don't see that happening. I just don't see us shitting the bed that bad. Even though I never really wanted Bryce, I don't hate him. I want him to succeed. I just, even if he were to just shit the bed the rest of the year, I just don't see that happening. I think he's just going to be mid. I think he's going to have some flashes. He's going to have some bad, dumb mistakes. He's going to be mid for the most part, and we're not going to feel that replacing him with the top 10 pick in next year's draft on his 4th year rookie contract is going to be I think they're more likely to get a guy to come in the back and compete against them. That's just what it is. So I think we're just right sitting right now. That's what I put my money on. We're out of the realm. We're talking who falls the second that we had a top 15 grade on, who falls to the third that we had a first round or maybe top 50 grade on. I think we're more likely to start thinking about it in the third round, earliest. But yeah, and maybe that's someone like maybe you if they're me, and let's assume I've done my homework on everyone else, and Miller Moss to me still stands out. I have no problems with it. Bring in Miller Moss or someone like him, whoever you like, third round, just to get that backup quarterback and challenge, compete for the starting job. Like it could just be done so on the down low. All you have to as a team, all you have to say is, look, um, in so many words, Andy Dalton wasn't cutting it as a backup. We had a top 50 grade on, in this case, Miller Moss. We felt the value there for a backup quarterback was too much to let pass by, and we went with the best player on the board that helps make our team better. Bryce is our starter, and then off season rolls around, practices, training camp, preseason, chances are he's not going to outshine Bryce. I don't think anyone would. Maybe of Drew Aller, but you can just say, hey, dude, this is you're going to sit for a bit, and then if Bryce were, assuming very easily he's our starter next year, starts to falter a little bit, I wouldn't rush in a Lenore Sellers, but I would bring in a Drew Aller. I would go through the growing pains of Bryce. If it was Sellers, I wouldn't with Drew Aller. I would pull the trigger and have him start. Miller Moss, he might be someone I would think about just from what I've seen. I would bring him in. Say, all right, man. And Bryce threw has had 3 turnovers in this game. Maybe it needs to happen a couple of times if it happens next season. Anyways, this is all just fucking fluff talk. So I should probably just wrap it up. I got my thoughts out. If you're watching, I'd love to know, like anyone's opinions on who would you resign, who would you cut. Don't put emotion into it, man. Okay, we get it. Andy Dalton should be cut. Okay, but you don't have to say, well, Bryce Young sucks, needs to be cut. That's just not realistic. Whose stock do you think is rising and falling on our team and in the draft? Potential players. Like no one cares about, you know, the guy who doesn't even fit on his page right now. Okay? I don't know. I'm talking like an asshole, but I'm just saying. Like I see a lot of comments when I'm watching the NFL Stock Exchange videos. A lot of people comment like, "Oh, this player, that player. Have you seen him yet?" Like, dude, come on, man. Let's like, okay, great. You know what? I retract that. If there's a guy you think would be great, sure, dude, bring it up. Maybe it's someone we could kind of keep an eye on and cross our fingers, hope that we take him in the late rounds. Anyway, that's but all this is just me. So, all right, have a good one. Hopefully, who we playing next? Packers. Was Josh Jacobs? Is that the guy's name? The running back. See, I think someone like him we're gonna have more success at than a Cook. Cook with the Bills. I think that our weakness is shown that when it comes to stopping the run, we struggle with offensive schemes with running backs that can just read it and cut. We obviously were not prepared for that, but when you have like people like Bijan Robinson, um, and, who was the guy from the Cowboys? I think we I don't know. I'm expecting. I think we're going to play okay against Josh Jacobs. I'm not that worried about him personally. I know a lot of players get, a lot of fans get emotional. They just saw Cook put up over 200 yards against us, so they're thinking Josh Jacobs is going to rip. I'm not as worried if our defense proves me wrong. Then okay, fine. I'm not as worried about it. I'm more just worried about their offensive scheme as a whole. And if I could talk a little bit about like when I was talking about the cornerbacks, they kind of just I don't know what it is, man. Like yeah, they get burned sometimes, like against the Cowboys, but defensive backfield, with the exception of maybe Nick Scott, they're kind of overachievers. In the sense that, like, we saw Josh freaking Allen struggling to find open players downfield, and that's while they were running the ball against us. So they didn't really have to, but when they did, I don't have access to the all 22, but like, he must not have had a lot of open receivers. So that tells me that they're doing their part, doing their job for the most part. And so yeah, I think that like yeah, if we just need to stop that. I don't know, man. We might be doing okay against the Packers. I ain't predicting a win. Their scheme is more worrisome to me. Their coaching decisions are more worrisome to me. And at least when we're on defense, I think we should be able to play well against them as long as people don't just shit the bed. Like continuously let them run down gap. Have open, leave gaps open for the running back, and we, they don't have a shoot. I heard their tight end's pretty damn good, but we'll see, man. I mean, I'm more worried about their defense against our offense. I'm at least right now. We'll see how I feel on Sunday, but I'm more worried if our offense is even going to be able to do anything against their defense. That's what I think. If you so here's the keys to winning. Brought to you by some old fogey. Run with Rico. Dave, run with Rico. Lean on him. He's got the hot hand. He is the guy right now. Don't leave the guy on the bench. You take the guy out when the guy is tired. You don't have to overwork him either. I think Chuba will benefit from it too. Heck, you might even get Chuba more yards by doing that than if you have Chuba starting and them switching quarters or series. Come on, man. That's a key to winning. You know, uh, base it off the run game. Be stubborn with it. Use play action. I don't care if it's Dalton or Bryce. Have him under center. Run the ball. Call play action at times. Be smart about it. If the times you want to get fancy, do it with a play action pass, bro. Keep it simple, stupid for now, and then open up your playbook a little after you get a little bit of momentum. That's what you do on offense. Period. End of fucking discussion, bro. All right. Defense keys. Uh, Play your run game against Josh Jacobs. I don't think you're gonna have to worry too much about a shifty running back like Cook was, and play your best on covering the receivers. Dude, honestly, I think sometimes it's so fucking easy, but like it obviously, I think on this it's gonna be execution. So sorry to sound Canales cliche there, but just yeah, make him fucking do what you've been doing. Just know that if they get someone in there that's dashing you up a little bit, whether that's a different running back or Josh Jacobs all of a sudden can start cutting like Cook can, or the tight ends ripping you up, then make adjustments. But I'm not actually that concerned. I'd be more concerned that they're just someone's going to shit the bed. But I think if everyone's doing their job on defense, I think we're all right. Uh, I know I kept saying it, but like, yeah, I think the offense is what concerns me against their defense, but not if you run the ball with Rico. I'm not saying he's the savior. I'm just saying that is where we found. Just do what has made you successful, um, and don't get too fancy with it, and don't let go of the running game. If you go down by 2 scores, just keep doing it. If you're still, especially if you're still in the first half, bro, you're in the third quarter. Don't stop. Keep keep pounding to get your team to build off of, even in the third quarter. And you you might have something happen on defense because of it, and get the ball back, and you just built this foundation on the game that you can keep building on. That's what I think the keys to success are. So anyhow, I'll shut up. Have a good one. Keep pounding. Hopefully next time I'm on, I have something to celebrate.